All right, guys, this is the big one right here. Texas sues Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. 4 of the 6 contested states. Now, because I was trying to think here at the same time, why isn't Arizona and Nevada in the same boat? Well, Arizona has a significant amount of legislation already in front of it going towards the state houses and the Arizona Supreme Court. I think they'll be all right, but this is very, very developing, and we have a whole bunch more information on that because just saying it's Texas that is suing Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin is only telling part of the tale. First, we'll get you up to speed what we know right now because this is the fucking best chance that this election gets resolved at the House level and we get 4 more immediate years. Okay, let's go to this one here first. So, Louisiana joins Texas in a suit to overturn the election. So, the state of Louisiana has joined Texas in suing 4 states. Earlier today, Texas filed the suit, blah, 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 blah. This afternoon, Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry issued the following statement. Millions of Louisiana citizens and tens of millions of our fellow citizens in the country have deep concerns regarding the conduct of the 2020 federal elections. Deeply rooted in these concerns is the fact that some states appear to have conducted their elections with disregard to the United States Constitution. Furthermore, many Louisianans, sure, have become more frustrated as some of the media and the political class try to sidestep legitimate issues for the sake of expediency. Oh my God, this guy's great. Weeks ago, on behalf of the citizens of Louisiana, my office joined many other states in filing a legal brief with the United States Supreme Court urging the justices to look into the conduct of the election in Pennsylvania, where their state court ignored the United States Constitution. Wow, to the conduct of the election. The U.S. Constitution in Article 1, Section 4 states plainly, the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed to the state by the legislature. The power of the conduct of federal elections is held by the state legislature in each state. In states like Pennsylvania, the judicial branch attempted to seize control of these duties and obligations and to set their own rules. These actions appear to be unconstitutional. If it is unconstitutional for Pennsylvania to take this action, it is similarly unconstitutional for other states to have done the same. Now it's starting to make more sense why Arizona isn't a part of that, because one of the lawsuits that Kelly Ward is pushing forward, and I think it's the Kelly Ward suit, they are looking at the state legislature to select the electors. So that would be a redundant case for them to jump on this one. But if that lawsuit gets dismissed, I imagine that they are going to jump on just like Louisiana does. And they aren't the only state that is jumping on this one. We have another tacit endorsement and another attorney general signing on. That would be the one in Alabama, Mr. Steve Marshall. The state of Texas has filed a motion to the Supreme Court requesting permission to sue 4 states over voting irregularities in those states during this year's presidential election. It is my expectation that the court will act quickly in deciding whether to grant the state of Texas's request. That decision will instruct me as to how the state of election will proceed in our fight to ensure election integrity. The unconstitutional actions and fraudulent votes in these states not only affect the citizens of those states, they affect the citizens of all states, of the entire United States. States. Every unlawful vote counted or lawful vote uncounted debases and dilutes citizens' free exercise of this franchise. The state of Alabama will continue to pursue any legal remedy available to protect her people from such disenfranchisement. Both our rights and our republic demand it. Strong words, and that's also something that I've been talking about too. I think you guys can recall that, and definitely you guys have also thought of this stuff as well. Whenever illegal votes or multiple fraudulent votes come in to a voting area, that dilutes all of the legal votes. I don't care who won. Obviously, I have my preference. I would love for Trump to win. I would be disappointed if the law does not take up any of these cases, but this suit here is powerful. And like I was saying there, as long as we figure out who won at the end of the day, once all the legal ballots are counted, legal ballots, by the way, if Biden is the most popular president of all time, now he has like 81 million votes, blowing Barack Obama's 2008 record out of the water by 12 million votes at this point. Oh my fucking God. I guess the only reason Obama had that first record is because Joe Biden was on the ticket, right? Yeah, obviously. But yeah, if Biden is as popular as he is, I guess, yeah, it'll just be 4 or 8 years of Joe Biden, and that's fine. That's fine as long as every legal avenue is exhausted. And now that the Supreme Court has taken up cases like we seen earlier in the previous video, which I've probably already linked to at this point, but yeah, please go and watch that one as well, because that'll explain to you safe harbor and the fact that that case is still very much alive. And with all of that preamble out of the way, so we got official statements from attorney generals in Alabama and Louisiana, and also expect these ones in the coming days. Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama we just got, Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi, South Carolina, South Dakota have all joined the lawsuit apparently right now. Jesus Christ, I see all of these states, and for the first time I can think of, this is really starting to look like a flashpoint for civil war. I don't know how this is going to shake out, but before I was pressing record, I just started to see all of these states start to join on either side, and I'm starting to see the battle lines be drawn. This is the first time. I didn't think anything out of the riots from earlier this year would really spark anything. I think that we all expected everything to kind of ramp up when it came to the riots here towards the end of the year around the election time anyways. But this really could get spicy depending on how the lawsuits shake out. And right now we just know that this is filed and more states keep joining all the time. And it's very interesting which states have joined on right now, because I wholeheartedly expect like Oklahoma, Utah, because the attorney general there, he spoke at the RNC as well, and he's been helping the Trump campaign as well. He was one of the first attorney generals to publicly sign on to that, so I'd imagine they're going to be hopping in the next couple of days. And I don't know, this one's going to get kicked up real quick. So without any further ado, let's do Breitbart, because they were the first guys to report on it. Then we got the Epoch Times review the case as well, and then we got the case itself to take a look at. Okay, let's go. The state of Texas has filed a lawsuit directly with the United States Supreme Court shortly before midnight on Monday, challenging the election procedures in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin on the grounds that they violate the Constitution. Texas argues that these states violated the Electors Clause in the Constitution because they made changes to voting rules and procedures through the courts or through executive actions, but not through the state legislatures. Additionally, Texas argues that there were differences in voting and rule procedures in different counties within the states, violating the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause. Finally, Texas argues that there were voting irregularities in these states as a result of the above. Texas is asking the Supreme Court to order the states to allow their legislatures to appoint their electors, this lawsuit says. Certain officials in the defendant states presented the pandemic as a justification for ignoring state law regarding absentee and mail-in votings. The defendant states flooded their citizenry with tens of millions of ballot applications and ballots in the derogation of statutory controls as how they are lawfully received, evaluated, and counted. Whether well-intentioned or not, these unconstitutional acts had the same uniform effect. They made the 2020 election less secure in the defendant states. Those changes are inconsistent with relevant state laws and were made by non-legislative entities without the consent by the state legislatures. These acts of these officials thus directly violated the Constitution. And we know that with all of the coverage that I've done and you guys watched on Act 77, we've seen that it only went through the State House once. It didn't go through a second time. It was not properly advertised, and it was not properly voted on at a public referendum level. That is unconstitutional. And especially in Wisconsin, I know this one as well because we've talked about it again. All of those mail-in ballots needed to be asked for, and they needed to have a specific reason why you were incapacitated and could not vote on the day of the election. And COVID-19, the pandemic, was not an excuse. It was not an excuse. And as for Michigan, probably you could have wrote down because Gretchen Whitmer's a total bitch. That's probably a justifiable reason why you couldn't leave your house. And Georgia, well, is stampeding rhinos a legitimate reason why you had to mail in your ballot? Not too sure. Anyways, let's get back to this. This case presents a question of law. Did the defendant states violate the Electors Clause by taking non-legislative actions to change the election rules that would govern the appointment of the presidential electors? These non-legislative changes to the defendant states election law facilitated the casting and counting of ballots in violation of state law, which in turn violated the Electors Clause in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution. By these unlawful acts, the defendant states have not only tainted the integrity of their own citizens' vote, but their actions have also debased the votes of the citizens in the plaintiff states and other states that remained loyal to the Constitution. Good point. Good goddamn point. And I'll be totally honest, I was so shocked when I woke up this morning and I seen this. Not that somebody would think of this, but Texas? Like, they've been knocking it out of the park with business, trying to persuade a NASDAQ office to open up. They've convinced Hewlett-Packard to jump out of Silicon Valley to start up. It is the #1 destination for businesses right now in the entire country. They are absolutely killing it, and it looks like Greg Abbott's trying to position himself very, very well for a future presidential run. Granted, he wasn't the one who facilitated this lawsuit. We'll get to that because, well, as you can see with all of the statements from the attorney generals from Louisiana and Alabama, it was the attorney general of Texas. But when we get to the lawsuit, we'll tell you who that guy is. So let's go to the most up-to-date source on what's been covered so far. Now, Mark Hammontree over there, you might see his comment saying, Trump lost, it's over, sorry. You could probably deduce that's what Twitter's response right now, but as you've seen in the previous video, and it hasn't changed before, the What's Happening tab, and the only thing that's organically trending right now with SCOTUS is that the Pennsylvania lawsuit has been denied. Har, 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 nothing to see here. Doesn't even mention anything about Texas. Like, the only time that they'll mention this one is if it magically ends up getting thrown out, which pretty much anybody in the legal sphere is talking about how this is far and away the best chance for the Trump legal team to succeed because, well, it's the only place that this type of lawsuit can be heard is at the Supreme Court level, because now you're having interstate affairs and there's no place. They have to listen to this. And also, one last thing, I was just thinking of this and I don't know why I didn't have it pulled up earlier, but yeah, Supreme Court has already weighed in on this one. They're giving Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, and Wisconsin until Thursday at 3 p.m. to file a response to the Texas filing. So they have to get their fucking ducks in a row by Thursday. So how about that safe harbor? Everything is supposed to be the same. Shut up. So yeah, there's no hand waving this one away. And yeah, just like we've seen before, yeah, she's definitely 100% official. And all of these sources are going to be in the description as usual, just to show you that I'm not fucking photoshopping anything. I'm not that technically savvy anyways. All right, so Texas Supreme Court to the United States case highlights non-legislative election rule changes in battleground states. This one's going to get beefy, guys, so hope you're strapped in. Hopefully you got your popcorn ready. Texas's Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton on Tuesday filed an election lawsuit in the United States Supreme Court against Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, and Wisconsin, alleging the state used the pandemic to unlawfully challenge or change their election laws and urging the top court to have the election results declared unconstitutional, therefore not sending the electors, and nobody would hit 270, therefore reversing it down to the House, where the state delegations are overwhelmingly Republican, and there it is. There it is. Remember, Trump said over the weekend, I don't know if I covered it, maybe you guys came across this as well. Trump said in the next couple of days, things were going to be huge. We're going to have some late-breaking stuff. You won't even believe what's going to happen. It's going to make your head spin. Well, Paxton argued the filing, we got the PDF and we'll cite it here at a couple of different points, that the states used the outbreak of the China virus as an excuse to make non-legislative changes to the election rules, though executive fiat or friendly lawsuits, thereby weakening ballot integrity. He is requesting the United States Supreme Court rules to prohibit the counting of electoral college votes cast by the 4 states, and for those states that have already appointed electors, he asks the court to direct state legislatures to appoint new electors. Man, why couldn't every counting operation look like that? Just not in that kind of creepy fucking 80s action film warehouse, that showdown scene. Jesus Christ. Well, investigations into allegations of unlawful votes being counted and fraud continue. Even the appearance of fraud in a close election would justify exercising the court's discretion to grant the motion, Paxton argued, and called for the High Court to extend the December 14 deadline, for certification to the Electoral College electors and allow those investigations to be completed. Yeah, that's huge. That's definitely blowing the fucking safe harbor thing right out of the water. Like we said before in the previous video, January 6th is when the votes get counted, but the only date that is actually constitutionally guaranteed is January 20th, Inauguration Day. In seeking a determination by the court that the 4 battleground states conducted the 2020 election in violation of the Constitution, Paxton detailed actions taken by these states to modify election rules, and we are going to go one by one. I think that's 4. Pennsylvania. Paxton argues that Pennsylvania's Secretary of State Kathy Brockvar unilaterally and without legislative approval modified several state statutes requiring signature verification for absentee and mail-in ballots. After several voter advocacy groups sued Brockvar in August, claiming the existing signature verifications procedures for mail-in voting were unlawful, the Pennsylvania Department of State settled with the plaintiffs, issuing revised guidance stating that the Pennsylvania Election Code did not authorize the County Board of Elections to set aside returned absentee or mail-in ballots based solely on signature analysis by the County Board of Elections. Paxton argues that the move violated Pennsylvania's law, that it unconstitutionally did away with Pennsylvania's statutory signature verification requirements. I didn't know that somebody else sued Brockvar on behalf of their unconstitutional laws. You'd think that would have came up with one of the dismissal from the lower court judges in Pennsylvania. The only one who was actually on the level was the one who said that Act 77, is unconstitutional. It's not my job to rule on it, but you guys have a pretty good case here, so. Oh my fucking God. The more you see about Pennsylvania, the less you like it. These claims mirror those made in an earlier lawsuit against Brockvar ahead of the election, with the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling unanimously to prohibit counties from rejecting a ballot if the voter's signature does not resemble the signature of the voter's registration form. Another claim Paxton made as the complaint to the United States Supreme Court was that the Pennsylvania State Legislature enacted bipartisan election reforms in 2019 that would, deadline the receiving mail-in ballots at 8 p.m. on Election Day. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court later extended that deadline to 3 days after election. We've covered that as well, but I'm pretty sure that was a part of Act 77 as well. He also noted that in the complaint, that prior to the election, Brockvar sent an email to local election officials urging them to provide opportunities to contact voters to cure defective mail-in ballots, which he said violated the state election code. You know what? If all of those Kraken lawsuits would have been a lot more structured like this one, they wouldn't have been dismissed and they wouldn't have been kicked up at the same time. Actually, I don't know that entirely for sure because most of these judges right now are just dismissing without prejudice. Oh, you want me to disenfranchise? Shut up. Just look at the fucking evidence that's there. And since we've heard from other attorney generals, let's hear what Josh Shapiro, who said, well, may I remind you before we go into a statement on this lawsuit here, what he said about President Trump a few days before the election, after everything is going to be said and done. Once we count all of the ballots, there is no way Trump is actually going to win Pennsylvania. He said that. But what has he also said on Twitter, the exact same medium? He made those bold claims as well. These continued attacks on our fair and free election system are beyond meritless. I'm sure he probably wants to say that they were also anti-Semitic. Beyond reckless. They are a scheme by the President of the United States and some in the Republican Party to disregard the will of the people and name their own victors. Well, what are you going to say to the 9 other states that have joined on? They're all just racist, sexist, homophobics. These factless, baseless lawsuits to stir confusion and doubt into our systems are un-American and we cheated fair and square, said Shapiro. Somebody stick a Kotex in his fucking mouth. Now on to Georgia. Paxton argues that the Supreme Court filing that Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger unilaterally and without legislative approval abrogated Georgia's statute governing the signature verification process for absentee ballots. And I think by proxy, Brian Kemp saying I've called for signature audits 3 different times, and Brad there just sticking his fingers in his ears going la 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 la, recount la 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 la, kind of emphasizes that fact. It's not like he's said that in public. He said that in a multitude of interviews as well. The statute prohibits the opening of absentee ballots until after the polls open on election day, but in April, the state election board adopted a rule issued by Raffensperger that authorizes county election officials to begin processing ballots up to 3 weeks prior. Another change Paxton objected to was an agreement Raffensperger entered into the settlement of the lawsuit brought against him by the Georgia Democratic Party, which changed the statutory signature verification requirements. Thank you, Stacey Abrams. That settlement made it more difficult to reject questionable ballots by requiring a registrar who suspected a defective signature to seek a review by 2 other registrars, making things needlessly complicated. And that's what leftists always love to do. They love to involve the government more so everything's become slower and a lot less efficient. A majority vote to discard the ballot and additional obstacles like all 3 registrars having to sign their names on the rejected ballot and write down the reason for its rejection. I understand the need for scrutiny, but at the same time, if you just look, I think somebody has the authority, if you are a registered poll watcher or you're somebody who is validating ballots, if somebody marks their name with an X and then in the future they write it down with a big A, I think you know that this isn't the same fucking type of person. You can just take that ballot and scrunch it up and fucking throw it out. Paxton argued this change, while was not ratified by the Georgia's legislature, and it was made less likely to reject questionable ballots and materially benefited Biden, as the former vice president received nearly double the number of absentee ballots than Trump, and in some instances he would get 96% to 3%. So you got to throw in a couple of Joe Jorgensen ballots in there as well. You don't want to totally make it look like fraud. So let's head up north, yeah? Paxton alleges that Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Oh, Jocelyn. That is just such a soccer mom's name, hey? Can't you just picture the fucking charm bracelet on this bitch's arm? Unilaterally and without legislative approval, abrogated Michigan election statutes relating to absentee ballot applications and signature verifications. While the Michigan Constitution provides for no excuse mail-in voting, Benson announced in May that her office would send unsolicited absentee voter applications by mail to all 7.7 million registered voters, in violation of Michigan election law, which does not give the Secretary of State the power to distribute absentee ballot applications, Paxton argued. You know what? Fuck Greg Abbott. I want Ken, don't call me Bill Paxton, to be running for president next. Christ, this guy's good. Moreover, Michigan law requires the applicants sign an absentee ballot application form, a rule that Paxton argued was violated when Benson launched a program in June that allowed absentee ballots to be requested online without signature verification. Oh, but my pandemic. Oh, but my 0.03% chances of death. Can you fucking believe it? According to Michigan's certified results, Biden leads Trump by a margin of over 146,000 votes. But remember, 7.7 million registered voters received unsolicited ballots, which are unconstitutional, totally on the face of it. Hell, even if you don't live in Michigan, you still are registered to vote, and you're still sure as fuck gonna get a ballot. Just ask Steven Crowder. Oh, let's see what this bitch, the Attorney General, Dana Nelson, said in a statement. The motion filed by Texas Attorney General is a publicity stunt, not a serious legal pleading. May I remind you, it has been docketed by the United States Supreme Court, so this bitch is obviously qualified for her position. The Michigan issue raised in the complaint have already been thoroughly litigated and roundly rejected in both state and federal courts, but has it by the Supreme Court of the United States? Ooh. Funny you should leave that out of your statement, bitch. By judges appointed from both political parties. Like, that makes it fucking better. She continued, adding that Paxton's actions are beneath the dignity of the office of the Attorney General. You know somebody is losing the argument when they have to resort to name-calling and questioning your dignity. What a cant. And finally, how about damn Packers? In his complaint, Paxton argues that the Wisconsin Election Commission, the WEC, not the former awesome cage fighting association where Uriah Faber reigned with an iron fist for years, unconstitutionally modified Wisconsin's election laws in a way that weakened or entirely removed established safeguards to ensure absentee ballot integrity. Let's see if he cites the source that I've made clear several times. One of these modifications involved the establishment of hundreds of drop boxes to collect absentee ballots, including ones that were unmanned. However, the use of any drop box, manned or unmanned, is directly prohibited by the Wisconsin statute. Paxton argued. Yeah, and I think it was in Michigan too. They were asking for, this was the Trump legal team who was asking for it, by the way. They were asking for the surveillance footage of these drop boxes and still haven't come up with any of that. And also, what happened to the subpoena where they were also asking for surveillance footage from Cobo Hall the night of the counting when everybody mysteriously went home, but ballots were still mysteriously being counted. He also alleges that the WEC and local election officials encouraged voters to unlawfully declare themselves indefinitely confined so they could, under Wisconsin law, avoid security measures like photo ID requirements and signature verifications when applying to vote absentee. Paxton cited guidance issued by Dane County and Milwaukee County clerks indicating that all voters should mark themselves as indefinitely confined due to the pandemic, which, furthermore, he cited is a directive issued by WEC to Wisconsin clerks prohibiting removal of voters for the registry for indefinite confinement status, even if voters were no longer indefinitely confined. He also alleges that the WEC issued guidance permitting clerks to add missing addresses from certifications of absentee ballots in violation of Wisconsin election laws. Ooh, we get to hear from an assemblyman. Wisconsin Assemblyman Ron Tussler, a Republican, told the Epoch Times this week that the commission guidance went against state law. State law says one thing and they're doing something else. Thanks, Ron. Certified results in Wisconsin put Biden ahead of Trump by a margin of a shade over 20,000 votes. A WEC spokesman told the Epoch Times via email that the commission doesn't comment on lawsuits. So that's the 50,000-foot view. We got the big motherfucker right here. It is, as you can see right there, 154 motherfucking pages. I will not be reading every single page of this. We're just going to go through a couple of different points in it as well. So to give you some proper context, once again, everything will be linked in the description. I know this video is fucking long and it's dense with information, but this one right here is the absolute game changer. If Sidney Kraken wanted to label one lawsuit the Kraken, right here. Nothing shady with the fucking ghost of Hugo Chavez. Nothing talking about goofy ass voting machines. Nothing about, oh, ballots being counted overseas and fucking stored in pirates' chests in the fucking middle of the ocean. No, it's just your boring ass legalese that is your best chance of overturning the results of this fraudulent goddamn election. Very important table of contents page. Moving right along. Here's one that should probably, curl those little hairs on the back of your neck. So this is in regards to Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania Department of State's guidance unconstitutionally did away with Pennsylvania's statutory signature verification requirements. Approximately 70% of the requests for absentee ballots were from Democrats and under 25% from Republicans. Thus, this unconstitutionally abrogated of states' election laws greatly inured to former Vice President Biden's benefit. Unconstitutional ballots at a clip of 70 fucking %. Jesus. Ooh, here's a little bit more. On December 4th, 2020, 15 members of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, led by Representative Francis X. Ryan, should be a superhero name, issued a report to Congressman Scott Perry, the Ryan Report. That sounds like a cable news show, stating that the general election of the 2020 in Pennsylvania was fraught with inconsistencies, documented irregularities, and improprieties associated with mail-in balloting, pre-canvassing, and canvassing that the reliability of the mail-in votes in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is impossible to rely upon. The Ryan Report's findings are startling, including ballots with no mailed date. That total is 9,005. No mailed date on 9,000 ballots. Ballots returned on or before the mailed date. That total is 58,221. Whoa. Ballots returned one day after mailed date. That total is 51,200. Okay, just reading the next sentence here. We got to go with this. These nonsensical numbers alone total 118,426 ballots and exceed Mr. Biden's margin of 81,660 votes for President Trump. There it is. There it is. Plain as fucking day. So a couple of points before we wrap up the video. Okay, most of these previous lawsuits that were affiliated with the Trump team and not official Trump lawsuits that have been tossed out or whatever, they were thrown out based on standing. And like I've said before, and just for a little refresher course for everybody, standing refers to if somebody has the legal right in order to sue or bring about the lawsuit, as it were. Texas definitely, and those, 9 other states, as of right now, that is, definitely, based on their claims there, saying that it diluted the voter pool and cites their sources, definitely has standing. So it's not going to be dismissed based on that. And because they're immediately going to the Supreme Court, it's the only court that can really do any sort of adjudication for interstate affairs. It's the fucking federal court for a reason. And if it does happen to face a similar fate like the one in Pennsylvania, the one that we previously covered in the last video there, if the immediate action of just, fucking decertifying all of these states and not sending electors, if that is not met, at the same time, we're going to go through the proposed outlines, okay? What they want if they're not going to get their immediate injunctive relief. Okay, so if the court has not yet granted administrative relief, Texas proposes that the court order defendant states to respond to the motion for leave to file a bill of complaint and motion for interim relief by December 9th, so by Thursday. Texas waives the waiting period to reply briefs under the court's Rule 17.5 and would reply by December 10th, which would allow the court to consider this case on an expedited basis as its December 11th conference. With respect to the merits of the court, neither grants the requested interim relief nor summarily resolves the matter in response to the motion for leave to file the bill of complaint, thus requiring briefing of the merits. Texas respectfully proposes the following schedule for briefings and arguments. And remember, as we've seen here earlier, SCOTUS gives Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, and Wisconsin until Thursday at 3 p.m. to file a response to the Texas filing. So that has already been set into motion. So now if we go back to the lawsuit here. So on December 8th, starting tomorrow, the plaintiff's opening brief, same day, amicus briefs in support of plaintiffs or neither party. So representatives of the other states that have joined on to this, like South Dakota, Louisiana, Alabama, and the such. I know I'm leaving off a bunch of states, but those are the ones I remember. And then Thursday, when the defendants response briefs, which have already been requested for, and their amicus briefs as well. And then going into Friday, plaintiffs' reply briefs to each response brief, and then on Saturday, an oral argument if needed. And here's what I would like to know. Okay, we can continue to go through that at perhaps tomorrow's date, but I kind of hope that this one also stands as well. I don't know how good of a debater, I don't know how qualified the different attorney generals from the different states that have signed on to this are positioned to present the arguments in front of the Supreme Court, but a man who has been in front of the Supreme Court on 9 different occasions is one Ted Cruz. This is a story that I was going to bring up in the previous video as well, but I hope that it stands for this case as well, because this is the whole enchilada. This is the fucking big guy, okay? And we need somebody who, like Ted Cruz or not, the dude is fucking dynamite on a debate stage, and he can definitely deliver a case like very few elected officials can. Now, he had pledged support for the Act 77 lawsuit, which, it still might be heard in front of the Supreme Court as well, but hopefully it stands for this big fucking case right here, okay? Because there is a growing number of Republican federal representatives. You got Mo Brooks, you got Ted Cruz right now. I know I'm leaving off a whole ton of them right now, but there are guys that you can immediately think in the back of your head who have voiced open and vocal support, like Senator Josh Hawley, Representative Matt Gaetz, fucking Lindsey Graham has even donated $500,000 to the Trump defense team. So we know this is a very rapidly evolving case. It's going to be decided by Saturday by the looks of it, and this one is serious, and the fact that nobody's really reporting on it kind of tells you that there is some legal legs on this one. So we'll probably be touching back on this one tomorrow, but this is what we know right now. I know it was a big data dump, and if you guys want to definitely go through the lawsuit, all 154 pages of it, links will be down there. Go over the rest of the articles if you'd like another refresher course. Or, you could just, hit replay, that little fucking 3/4 of a spinny wheel. That would help out the channel quite a bit. But hey, if you guys made it this long, I really appreciate it. I know this was a big one. I know this was a dense one. Not like dense, but like fucking content-wise. So, next one, we'll be talking about something lighter. but I have a feeling this is not even close to the fucking end. So thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.